What's up, guys? I thought I would just real quick show you guys some of the things I saw from the race. And here's my file. And, obviously, I have a lot of experience racing and riding. But just want to show you guys real quick, just my file versus your guys' file, and for the people that did the race, and then obviously for the people that are looking at doing racing, right? So basically, like, the first thing that I want you guys to look at when we look at this file is power. Here's the start, here's the finish. You'll see that all these efforts here. So, like, obviously my threshold is higher than a lot of people's, so that's gonna kind of make this graph look a little bit different. But when you do go into the details, you'll notice, like, when you correlate, a lot of people's that did the race, their thresholds are 300 or a little bit below. So things are going to be a little bit different. But you'll notice, first of all, let's just look at the start. So what I did really well on the start, I'm going to highlight this here. Or I thought I was going to highlight. Maybe I can't highlight. Oh, here we go. I'm going to highlight this. So here's my start here. And we're just going to look at cadence real quick. So you'll notice here that I'm changing my cadence a lot with each of my little surges here. But the biggest thing on the start here for the first part of this effort, we're looking at kind of like 2 minute, or this is like just over 8 minutes here. The first 8 minutes of the start. So it's hard, and you can see there's lots of efforts, about 300 watts. I don't think that weight makes as big of a difference on the RGT software, because it's pretty accurate for flat riding. I kind of thought maybe some people were affecting their dropping their weights and things like that, which maybe they were, but still, like, looking at it, there was it was pretty consistent with the amount of power that people spent. So first of all, you'll see that multiple little surges that I made so this is every 7 seconds, really, right? So you have let's just highlight this section here. So this will be 40 seconds. In 40 seconds, I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 surges in 40 seconds, right? So that's like every 8 seconds there's a surge. Or let's look at the surges. My surges were like 4 or 5 seconds. So basically, like, when you're racing in a peloton or you're racing in a group, you have to kind of keep pushing to get that position. So if you're not doing these little micro efforts all the time to put yourself in a hole, you're going to end up doing much harder efforts. So you can see that by me doing all these, like, little efforts here, I was able to hold my position, get in the position, hold the position, and I never really fell back more than 5 wheels or something like that. So I really had to find the rhythm, and so you'll also see that I constantly change my cadence. All right, so see, I'm constantly changing the cadence, and changing that cadence is allowing me to keep the ceilings on these low, right? So these are hard efforts, but I'm able to keep it at about 315 watts for 11 seconds. A lot of the people's files that I looked at was efforts of 350, 400, all of that stuff up there, and really, really big efforts, which is costly. But you can see that I never really back off, and that's really important. And that's an important part to these race openings, is you cannot back off. You have to keep fighting until that group is reduced, until the people that you're fighting with, their legs tire. And in the situation like yesterday, the tough thing was that there was people that were very high level. So some people were outside of their level to begin with, but still, I think this is really informative. Here's a couple efforts here where there were some attacks early on, and this is really what split the group. And you can see here we'll have some cadence changes, right? And you can see that a lot of these attacks came from a spot of low energy, low effort to high effort. I made some comments on that to those people, but the timing of their attack wasn't really ideal. When people are surging, you almost want it to surge from, if you're doing it correctly, you want to surge from a place where the speed is high and the speed is low and it's going high. So that would mean that there's already pressure on the people's legs, and then you're accelerating off that pressure. In this case, the 2 attacks or 3 attacks that came were coming from places from pretty much already high speed. So you can see I was already recovered, and then it was easy for me to follow these wheels. But this is really what split the groups into pieces here. So again, really, really short efforts, guys. 10 seconds at 340 watts. So if you're in the position at the right time, and see, look at the recovery. As soon as I got on the wheel, look at the drafting in RGT. Look at that. I was able to fully recover, fully clear. Had to do a little bit of an effort. Maybe I miscalculated it a little bit, but you can see, again, all these little tiny efforts. So while they're, kind of difficult to get into, there is a rhythm. Here's another harder effort here. This one was 20 seconds. I think this was when Julian bridged across to the front, guys. So there was 2 in a breakaway, and then eventually 3 people bridge across to that 2. And then that was what that final 5 was. And so here is, again, I want you guys to see this overall graph. See how many cadence changes there are here, and how many power changes they are. Now I'm going to show you guys a quick file of someone else. Hold on, let's see if I can find it today. Here it is here. This is another rider here, and you'll see the complete difference of their file here. So very few cadence changes, right? In fact, the cadence changes are in groups, but the power is very spiky, right? Very, very spiky. So this person was in actually my group, okay? So this person was in the final, and I would like you to look here and see the difference. So this is the same breakaway, same race. Can you see the difference? Can you spot the difference, guys, right? Massive, massive difference, right? I didn't do any of those efforts here from that person, right? Another effort here. You can see when we crossed in the breakaway here, this person did some really big, hard efforts. I crossed that gap a little bit longer, but with an easier effort. This stuff really adds up. But the biggest thing I want you to see is how many hard efforts this person was doing. Basically, they were dropping back too far back and then having to close gaps. And then when they were reacting too hard. And then what also I'd like you to see here is how I changed my cadence so much, and this person did not change their cadence very much at all, right? So lots and lots here. So this is the final of the race here. You can see that my final was very, very quiet. So again, you can kind of see the difference in technique. And, both people finished in the front of the race. Both people are very strong, but you can see that I'm using a lot more of the technique and execution. And so this is why I think RGT is a really good platform for us to practice on, because you can really practice this stuff. And, I know there was a lot of people that was like, oh, okay, but, the start was this, or I took my eyes off the screen and I got dropped, or, whatever it is. But, at the end of the day, that's racing, and, you have to be in the front. And I think that, when we go back to everybody's racing that, I'm looking at, whether it's gravel or it's mountain bike or it's road, really it comes down to people's, being in the wrong spot at the wrong time. That's really hurting them in their results. So, for moving forward, for the folks that do this race, you do participate in this, I would like everybody to try, if you're going to do, we'll split it into A and B groups, but if you're going to do A and B, or you're going to do the race, like, you should go out hard with the group. It doesn't make any sense to do this and, fall off the back and then just ride hard the whole time. And if you do get dropped, wait for the group behind you, and then ride with that group. Don't do an individual time trial between groups, because you're not going to catch the break, just like in a real race, if you got dropped off the back. So make sure that you wait for the group behind, and then you work with the group behind. And last thing, again, the start wasn't crazy hard. You just have to react right when the whistle goes off, and you have to use cadence, right? Your cadence has to go up, and I use standing. So standing high cadence, with standing high cadence, I was able to, right, go with the first move at, 330 watts and 85 RPM. Okay, so big difference between, 450, 500, and 50 or 60 RPM. Again, like, this is why we practice this stuff. It doesn't really translate, and so really important that you guys change the cadence and adjust to the stuff. And I know that the computer you're probably saying, well, the computer program doesn't really measure that cadence. What it does measure is torque, and that is a factor of this whole thing. So by changing your torque, changing all the stuff, you're going to get a lot better effort and result out of it. So anyway, really good job, everybody. I just wanted you guys to see the differences. And, I think that these differences that I'm showing you guys here are exponentially greater outside versus inside. So I think inside there's a lot bigger of a grace period, a grace for you guys to not do this and still perform well. But outside, if you're riding like this, it's going to be really easy. And I think that I could ride in the front of a pro criterium, or I know I could ride in the front of a pro criterium, using less than 240 watts average or 230 watts average for the whole race, and be in the front. But that means that I'm going to have to be in the right spot at the right time and doing surges at the right moments. One last thing I didn't mention actually too is I would position myself really well in key moments where the efforts were hard, and I would take a little risk and I would let go. I'd use a lower ceiling when people would surge, and I would let 2 or 3 people get in front of me, and I'd grab onto their wheel. So, but again, I would start in first or second place out of the turn, and then I would do a little bit easier of an effort, and people would just come around me out of my draft, and they would just fill in the hole between me and the other person easily because they slingshotted me, and then I kind of slipped in behind them. So really easy way to control this stuff. And here is me just experimenting with some attacks in the very end here. And one of the things I noticed that I think John pointed out is because I had my training resistance or whatever lower on the trainer, I think it's less responsive and attacking maybe. So like me doing these surges, like my little dude like barely got in front of anyone. Or what it also could have been is just the computer program accounts for really high speed of a breakaway of 5 people, and maybe it's harder to attack off the front of 5 people, which is true. So maybe that's what with why I couldn't really get away with those attacks. But anyway, cool, good stuff, guys. Let's experiment with this some more and improve. All right, good job, everybody.